where, my journey was, I was adamant about finding a system. My team was adamant about finding a system. I got my coach adamant about finding a system, and then we couldn't find one. So we built one together, right, with all the feedback, which we now know is metronomics. That is like, pretty much signing your pink slip there. Pink slip, yeah, Shannon just wants to leave the company, as CEO. But the funny thing is that didn't happen. So we'd raised over 30 million US, right? Like that. And so we had lots of money, right? So that wasn't a problem, but actually figuring out how to make money.
That's what the
And
system
that is the goal.
That's...
Like my second business, we didn't invest any money. We didn't take on any investors. It was like, we are customer funding this. And again, it was a SaaS business. Anyone listening knows, if you're in a SaaS business, it's really hard to customer fund a SaaS business.
My guest today is renowned entrepreneur Shannon Susko. Shannon co-founded, served as CEO, and led the sale of 2 companies in under 6 years. She's highly regarded for creating the Metronomics framework, a strategic execution framework, and is the author of 4 books, numerous accolades, including being recognized as one of Canada's top 100 most powerful women on multiple occasions. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad I'm here. It's been a journey, and now we're here. It's awesome.
Are we here?
Thank you.
So the big question in my mind right now is, how did the Ironman go?
Oh, yes, very good. So, as you know, you can't plan the environment you're going to play in. Yeah. So the environment we played in was very interesting and very different, as it happens, than what was forecasted, like a week in advance, a couple of days in advance. And so the race went on, but it full thunder and lightning storms during the ride, rain, like heavy rain, hail, and then the hottest run ever. Oh. We got everything but snow, actually. But you know what? I was sort of ready for 100-degree weather, like hot weather. And I welcomed the different environment that we were racing in. The run was still really hot, but it was my second fastest time overall ever. So I'll take that.
Take that.
I'll take that any day. And the other thing I want to say, which is just so important to what we do and how important data is. Well, when I got in the water to swim, I mishit a button to start my watch. So I didn't get to start my watch till about 5 or 6 minutes in, and I was guessing. So, and that discombobulation sort of went on into the transition area. Somehow I got hit again. And by the time I got on the bike, my watch was already in run. And it's sort of hard to restart it again. Like so I just left it running, and I left it running because the overall time still would be good. The overall score would help me. I was adding X amount of minutes that I thought I didn't turn on. Like the data was a disaster. And so I think if I had known I was close to my personal best, I actually would have probably run harder. I don't know, but I probably would have. I'm wired that way. So yeah, it's a bit funny when you relate it back to business. The environment you played in, it changed that day. So we just had to, I just had to adapt to it. Many people did. I was a bit out on the bike. I was like watching, lightning go by. You're like not really want to be out on the bike while lightning's going. And then, and then the heat at the end of the day, I expected, and I felt, it did okay. The data side of it, so important for that race and so important in your business, right? So it's just the parallels. I was giggling a little bit on the data side of it. It annoyed me.
Yeah, I always enjoy reading your posts and the things that you learn from the kind of sporting arena that you bring into business.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And data is so important. I mean, but that kind of makes me think of something that
score, right? You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know the score.
Data.
Exactly. Unless you have no idea.
Like I was running blind, and At the end, I was like, so what was my time? Like that is never me. I never miss that. But I did, and I just went with it. I just rode at a pace and ran at a pace because I had no idea really where I was.
Yeah, and
So,
I can imagine that about you being a person who's very, very data oriented.
yes.
So,
So I was just calm about it and just went with
yeah.
it.
This is one of the things I think that I really admire about you is the performance on so many different levels. So whether it's on the sport, in this kind of sporting arena, in the business arena, and I bet if I asked your family how you perform in the mother and wife arena, you are a high performer, and there's so much energy and determination. How do you how do you do it? How do you keep it all together?
Well, I think it comes back to family, husband, family, right? You got to have that. Yeah, you just have to be able to make sure they know where you are going personally, but they also need uh, to know what kind of support. And I've had incredible support. I have many villages. My family, my immediate family, is one village, and they are like always there cheering on, just really driving and on the journey of doing better. All of us, right? And then you have other villages. I have my bigger family, which is amazing that you can, ask for help, get help, give help, all those things. And then, you know what? You have to have some other villages, villages of CEOs, villages of coaches, and I have a village of my hockey team that I played with for 25 years, and now we're a pickleball team that play pickleball often. But you need those villages in order to stay focused on what really matters. I think that's the key.
Yeah, I love that term village. And one of the teams that I work with has as one of their core values, the sort of village people, and to keep that village feel
Yeah.
to their business because it's so important. I love the way you used it there. But
Yes.
I mean, you one of Canada's top 100 women. How do you go from desperate CEO to the position that you're in now? What was that journey like?
Well, that's a really long, long, long story with lots of mistakes, lots of support. But you know what? It's just a matter of, I said it early, is staying focused on what you want and figuring out with your team. And you have one of the villages, of course, is the team you do things with. And when I was desperate CEO, and desperate means like we weren't desperate into like to actually build a company. We are desperate to grow a company, which is really different. We had a great opportunity. We could see what we could see, and we just couldn't figure out how to get from here to there. And I think the journey along the way and the people I met, the coaches I had many coaches along the way and still do, help you keep focused along the way and help you remove the blind spots that you can't remove on your own, right? So
Yeah,
as long as you're clear about where you want to go, um, and you're clear with your team and the team's coming, everyone's coming to go from where we were in 19, I hate to say it, 97, 98. And it's desperate, like, I wasn't going to take losing. We weren't going to lose on that. We're not going to lose. And in business, you don't have to accept a loss. In business, you actually get to say what your win is and you actually keep driving to the win. And I think that's why I'm still, in business today, supporting CEOs and their team for the win they want because I was so well supported and people helped along the way to get clear on what that win was. But keep the focus. It was really everything about moving from desperate to being able to be on the other side and not doing it, just once, but doing it a couple times in business. But it comes back to focus.
see, you're in this feeling of desperation. You want to grow the business, and what's kind of going wrong at that time? Are the wheels just spinning? Is the growth just not happening?
Yeah, so we had, and here's the funny thing, and I've worked with different companies along the way, and a few this year is we actually had growth of our top line.
Okay.
Our top line was growing at 30% plus, even more than that at that time. I mean, it was early days. It was just, we had this incredible growth going on, but the team was not keeping up with the growth, meaning we didn't have all the systems in place that we now know need to be in place. We didn't have it all connected. We weren't connected. We were all working way too many hours. We were not having a lot of fun. I mean, we were having fun, but not the fun of, where you have come in, knock it out of the park at work and leave, go home, knock it out of the park with whatever you're doing there, coming back, right? It wasn't like that. It was like all on all the time. And it got to the point where there's just no more hours in the day. And we were working too much in the business. Right. And so I was doing
Yeah.
strategy work at night, or, I mean, that story. You are working in it and you can't get out of it. That's the desperation, right? Can't, yeah, like I talk to so many high growth CEOs who are highly in it. They can't get out of it, and they're looking for that system to get out of it. I mean, that was the key to it all, is being like, and I was adamant there had to be a way. There are so many companies that went before us and had great success. But what I learned, actually, Jean, they had great success. A lot of them were too tired to come back and share their success, share their system, share however they did it. They're exhausted by the time they sold their business. And
So they
it's
don't want
usually
to.
about
Yeah.
30 years later, and they're like, I don't
Mhm.
want to do this anymore. Right? Where, my journey was, I was adamant about finding a system. My team was adamant about finding a system. I got my coach adamant about finding a system. And then we couldn't find one. So we built one together, right, with all the feedback, which we now know is metronomics. But, then, that took us on the ride. And the ride was fun because you'd come in, we're all doing the same things. We have our execution system, we have our strategy system, we have our cash system. But the best thing was we balanced it with the human, cohesive, and cultural systems. That's the thing. And it allowed us to actually, the leaders, to work on the business and keep everybody, as much as you can in a high growth business, in their sweet spot of doing what they need to do. Right? Everyone knew what was expected. So, I mean, that's the journey. But being able to do it again in a second business, and to be able to do it in the two businesses that bought my businesses, like, that's the system that, that repeatability
Yeah.
means that means that CEOs will exit their business. And other we have lots of CEOs in the metronomics community, as you know, who have retired and they want to come back and coach the system that they used. We have others that go on and build another business because they know the system, they know how to do it, and that how is really important. And then we have lots of CEOs who are not selling the business. They were desperate to sell their business because they were exhausted. And now that they're using the system, they are not, like, they don't want to sell their business. That's so fun. I have a
Yeah.
couple of those CEOs. So, like, that's a bit of the journey, and that gets me really excited. And it's actually why I do what I do today, is because it's like you don't have to be tired and then sell your business for less of a value than you thought you should get.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to having that energy and doing the things that you
Yeah.
want to be doing, like the Iron Man, having the time with the family, the different villages that are
Yeah.
support you, how
I
it all
mean,
feeds
I
back into it.
I think you know this, but there's no way I would have been able to get married and have 3 kids in less than 3 years without the system, right?
Yeah.
It gave, like, there's just no
Here's the
way.
proof. Here's living proof.
It's seriously, that is living proof. Like, there's just no way I could have done it. Like, I was just too much in the business prior to that whole that whole journey of life on the family side.
I kind of wonder sometimes, I know your personality and you're very driven. And I've wondered about the rest of the team as you start kind of putting the system in and putting it out. And one of the things you've talked about all the way along is how you've always worked with a coach, and
Mm.
do you think that has made a huge difference, or made a huge difference for you and for other business owners in getting the system in and getting it running?
Yeah, there's no like, so the weird thing is it's the middle of the late 90s, so it's 96, 97. We've started a business. I instantly, I'm looking for a business coach, which is really funny, which wasn't really a term
Yeah,
or thought of back then, but I'm looking for a business coach. Only because I came out of sports. I'm like, well, I don't know how to do this. I'm really young. I've, never built a company before. I have no idea how to do this. So, I go looking for a coach, and everyone's supporting that, yes, yeah, let's get Shannon a coach. So go find a coach, and I lucked out and found an incredible coach, John Kelly, who had great success in Canada building some of the biggest tech companies of that time and before. And so John joins, and with typical coaching relationship one-on-one. But the thing that turned the dial in order to like move this forward and unlock it is that John actually, maybe knowingly or not knowingly, was he was willing to take feedback, but he was sort of following, what he went through, right? He wasn't a certified coach in any way or anything, but he was open to learn. And so we agreed that we'd be open to learn together on this one. So we said, let's figure out all the pieces. My team was involved, and he actually grew from that. The language that we use in Metronomics is CEO plus leadership team coach,
yeah,
CEO plus leadership team. Well, that came from that time because, I said, John, I think it's really great that you're coaching me one-on-one, but I really need you to coach me with my team, because then you can see it all in action. You can actually be a blind spot remover live in the room. And at the time, we didn't have the full metronomic system in place, but we were working through the pieces. We were taking what John knew from his, decades and decades of experience, and what I had learned from sport, and we were putting it together. And the team was weighing in. We had this global leadership team, an amazing team from around the world, came to Whistler to join the Paradata team, our payment service provider team. And you know what? Everybody was willing. And the last piece that John really unlocked is the seventh system in Metronomics, which is the Coach Cascade system. And coaching myself with my team, he was coaching me to become a coach, like right from the get-go. I always knew a leader equaled coach, and then I was there to coach my leaders into becoming a coach, and they were there to do it for their leaders, and so on as we grew the company. That's where the Coach Cascade came from. And the thing is, we know in a high growth company, there is no way, and like people get to a very desperate state because your team isn't growing as fast as
yeah,
the top line and the bottom line are growing. Usually the top line continues to grow and the bottom line gets smaller in those situations. And we're trying to actually drive top line and bottom line, right? While balancing team, business, and life. So, that's what my first coach, and I worked with him for years. He was as humble and open and willing to learn as we were. And that's what made the difference. And that's a huge piece of what we do as coaches today. We have to be humble, open, and willing to learn with our clients. And we know the system will work in any situation, and it's moldable and plug-inable to what we need to figure out what that client needs. And John was the everything to that. He
yeah.
showed me the way for sure.
you come from that background where you're coachable. You've been through it, but I think there's many CEOs who haven't kind of gone through that. So I'm curious: is it harder to learn to become a great coach, which I think is something you've had to go through as well, or to learn to be coachable?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I think like, someone who is not open, like open meaning willing to put themselves out there, humble enough to listen and not know it all, you know, open up mistakes and all those things. Like someone who's that way will easily find a coach in order to get there. And we learned this so long ago. The number one thing to grow as a leader and then to grow as a coach is self awareness,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You have to have high self awareness. Can you learn that? Absolutely. You can learn it. It's the hardest thing in the world for anyone who's even open to it. You have to take a deep breath and be able to listen and make yourself aware of the feedback you're receiving, and then you need to want, have the willingness and desire to evolve your behavior. You have to have the willingness and desire to evolve your behavior. And the big thing is, if you don't, if you don't, the coach will stop coming. You know what I mean? The coach will stop coming because what's the point? It's just the coach will continue to give feedback and just, hits you on the side of the head and falls off, and you keep doing the same things. Like the coach
yeah,
will try for a while. I know you and I will both have had these experiences. You'll try to actually say it a different way, all those things. And usually at the end, if you can't get through that person, you may introduce them to another person that, another coach that may fit better. But the biggest thing is I've, with my own coaches, and I grew out of coaches. Had my dad was my original coach, right? Every Thursday night in business until I outgrew him. Then I had another coach for 3 years, outgrew them, right? So and then, meet John. I didn't outgrow John. John
yeah,
had done things beyond what I had done. But I also didn't outgrow John because he was learning as fast as I was learning, right?
yeah. Which
About all of this. And so, and I find even today as a coach, I learn, I feel like with my 6 clients, I'm learning 6 times as fast because they're all on, they're not all on the same path. And so you learn with them. And so the CEO has to be open and willing to learn, but the learning and the evolution of the behavior comes from the listening of the feedback and the awareness that, maybe have this negative reaction every time someone says something. It actually trumps everything before that. They have to be able to listen to, and open up their mind in order to acknowledge that that is actually happening and share that with their team. Like you have to share your behavioral things. That's why it's so scary when you go into this self awareness. You have to open it right up for your team to call you out on it. And so lots of CEOs absolutely don't want that.
yeah,
They just don't. I was like, I don't, I wasn't like born and raised to be a CEO, so you just, you've got to be open enough to learn and find a way. And, the thing we talked about earlier in this, all about focus, right? So if you're focused and want to, make those, you'll be open to things that maybe you weren't when that wasn't in front of you. That carrot wasn't right there.
yeah. So you come back and I mean, you've been coached over the years. You're comfortable in that role. You have John come in. Both of you are learning as you go and trying to figure this thing out, but you've brought the team into it. So everybody's learning together and growing together. And I think that's one of the things that I don't see very often in companies is this learning together. It's kind of the CEO trying to lead everybody along in a certain direction. But when we talk about the business getting to that point where it stalls, it's very often because the team hasn't learned in pace with how the business is growing.
Yes, yeah. And I think one of the biggest drivers of, I'm a big fan of teams that learn together, win together. That comes from my athletic background and the teams I played on because we were willing to learn together, right? We were willing to go, we don't know this or we don't know how to do that. We individually learn, we learn as a team. And and we know that the more we learn as a team, we know this in business too, the more we will win more, right? It just
Yeah,
pulls it together.
it's
If you go and learn individually, like everyone knows different things and no one knows the same thing and there's not a common language.
so you come up with this piece of magic in the process, I guess, which is the the
Yeah.
3-year highly
Yes.
achievable goal.
Yeah.
How does that come together, and how do you? What was year one like when you? Was it still
Yeah.
learning on the go, or?
So, the most amazing thing about a 3-year highly achievable goal, the 3-HAG, is it's so human. And what I mean by that is like when you put a 5-year goal out there, no one feels connected to it because it's so far away. They instantly, make themselves feel better because it's so far away, and I'm just gonna say it, and oh well if we don't hit it. But a 3-year highly achievable goal is so close. You can literally reach out and touch it. That's why nobody ever wanted to draw a 3-year highly achievable goal line in the sand because wow, that's really scary.
Yeah,
But when you get a group of an A-player leadership team together and agree upon, you do the work, you agree upon that 3-year highly achievable goal, and you come out of the meeting for the first time like we did for the first time, um you're like, holy shit, that could be so wrong. More than likely it's wrong. Predicting the future is wrong. We are very uncomfortable, and not only that, we walked out for the first time and then I went to a board meeting and told them we were going to do it. That is like, pretty much signing your pink slip there. Pink slip, yeah, Shannon just wants to leave the company, as CEO. But the funny thing is that didn't happen. That didn't happen for a few reasons. One, the team was all in building it. The team didn't want to be wrong. We were going to and that was where the focus comes from, right? Simple focus on the thing of where we wanted to get to. It wasn't like where we eked our way to. It
yeah,
was big. It's like where we wanted to get to. So the team was all in before like the end of the next day when we first did it. Like people were already figuring out all the hows, all the pieces. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting, right? A players don't want to lose, right? A players love a score. A players want to win the game. So that was winning for me on that side of the 3-HAG. The other human side of the 3-HAG is when you go and present it to the board, and we presented it so simply, right? So simply. This is where we're going to get to. These are, here's the key levers, here's the gross revenue, here's expenses, here's a profit, here's the cash in the bank. We're going to end that 3rd year with. Here are the things that we are here are the things we are moving through the business, the widgets. And then, here's what's going to look like when we get there. And this is what's going to be true when we get there. So you share that. And then you add in, one side is our 10 to 30 year goal. So that makes sense. Like that's the right
yeah.
stepping stone. And then on the other side, here's our annual plan at a high level. Here's our fiscal numbers. Here's our widgets. Here's our priorities. And now here's what we're going to do for the next 90 days. Well, that calmed my board down, actually. Calmed my board down and actually got them bought in that this is a doable thing. They could see how it could be done. Where the 5-year, and I call it a super wild ass guess, was like a Hail Mary. And why they were losing confidence in us at that time is because they couldn't see the path. And when you can see the path, and our board, human too, they're like, totally bought into the numbers, bought into, yep, that's the right direction. And then quarter over quarter, at that time, I got to say, my board meetings were monthly. No,
Yeah.
that is the worst thing ever, right? That's going to the dentist every month. But that only went on for 2 quarters, right? Probably not even 2 full quarters, because we did month, and then we did a quarterly meeting. And everybody was calmed down because they could see the progress made against what we said we would do in the path to where we wanted to go 3 years out. And so now the board was bought in, and they wanted to see us there. And the support from the board came up because they could actually see in their own expertise, their own networks, what they could do to help move the company to that direction. I mean, that's why I always say the three hag is human behavior, because once you gut it out, you want to make it right. The right people want to make it right, right? So, and when
Yeah.
I say the right people, you've got to care. Like, you really have to care. And I cared about the score, and I cared about ensuring my shareholders got a return on their investment, right? We had we went out and raised some mega money. But it doesn't matter if you have raised money or not, if you have a board or not, this still works. The human side of it still works.
You, you presumably you had an A player team in place
Yes.
when, so you've building the business up. How long before you put your three hag in place have you been building the business? So
We started the business in 95, and we started this process in 98. So
okay, so
we'd gone through a lot in those first 3 years, a lot.
but you're
Like,
conscious of the
we
fact you
try
really
not to
need the best
repeat
people.
those mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. And we had put in place, up to that point, my coach was like, read this book, and I was so desperate for a system that I was reading like 4 books a week. And I was reading, I was listening as I was traveling around the world, doing all this. It was like I had a book coming out of my ear this whole time, just looking for this silver bullet system. We never found it. But what it set us up for was, we actually, would take the pieces of everything we read, like Jim Collins, huge fan. So, you put in your core purpose, you put in your core values, you put in your BHAG, right? So we had that already in place. It's really important. It's why it's part of the foundation. Um, we had, stumbled along the way on discovering core values and all those things. So we had some things in there. What we were struggling with was the gap from 1 year
Gotcha.
to our 10 to 30 year. And that's what everybody was struggling with. It's why the board was losing confidence. It's why the team was losing confidence. And it's actually why, no slight to Jim Collins at all, because I love his work, is that the three hag brings the 10 to 30 year alive and believable. And that's the thing we are struggling with, because we had it in place already. And we put this 5 year super wild ass guess in place. It might as well have been 10, right? But the three hag brought it close enough and said, yeah, that makes sense. That's the right path, that, as far as we could predict, makes sense to get to that big, hairy, audacious goal. So that, some of those things are in place. But when we brought this in, like, it was, I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of the blind leading the blind, right? On and doing this. We were well read. My team was well read, but we were like piecing it together. We got lots of things wrong in finding the connections that we now know as the connected, metronomic system. But those are good things to learn. And why the metronomic system has all the thought leaders, all the best thought leaders, all the most incredible thought leaders, business thought leaders of our time, all their great work plugs in, because that's what we did. We had this operating system, right? This growth operating system happening in our organization. And then we're plugging in, right? We're plugging in Michael Porter. We're plugging
Yeah.
in, Jim Collins, Pat Lencioni. Like, how lucky, right? And in each one, and the cadence of it all. And I think that's one of the other things. At the time that we were doing this, the old school nature of planning was every 5 years. In the late 90s, that was ridiculous. And so
Yeah.
coming from a software background, because that's my background, and this is before Scrum and Agile even existed, so that dates me. But we were doing the cadence that we now know in metronomics. We learned more from Rock Habits. We've learned more from all these pieces, but like that's the cadence of it all, and lining up strategy and execution. Like that's what we wanted. That we just wanted to make it. I wanted to make our business team operate like a high performing, soccer team or basketball
Yeah.
team or hockey team. Like that's what I was going for, because we know that works. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In your experience, what have been some of the biggest challenges for companies who aren't as ready as you, kind of going into that first year? What are they going to be looking out for as they go into the first few quarters?
Yeah. And I think the number one thing, actually, for any company starting out on this is to understand where your organization is right now, in what we call the growth phases. The awareness of, no different than an individual awareness, a company's awareness on where they believe they are is really important. Because if everyone's aware that, the company's in the foundation growth phase, and there's three growth phases in metronomics. So, and in any business, quite frankly, it's not just metronomics. This is like, over 25 years of learning and data. So there's a foundation growth phase, there's a momentum growth phase, and there's a compounding phase. And it's, there's different questions you can assess yourself. Any company can assess themselves on which growth phase they're in. That assessment's offered off of the metronomics.com website. But
And
the
we'll put it
key
in the links below
thing,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, and the key thing is, that assessment, why it's there and why I kick off. Like if I kick off a new client, I'm doing that within the first hour of joining them. And I already have a pretty good idea where they are, but I want them as a team together to recognize which levers do they need to pull and why. And I have to say, for my own company back in the day, I wish I had that clarity of, where are you on your cash system? When I take it back to my first company, well, honestly, we had a lot of cash because we raised a lot of money, but our cash system wasn't doing so well because we were burning a lot of cash.
Mm.
We actually weren't making money when we started doing this. So that's why I was so desperate. We had top line growth, but we weren't making money. Like what? So cash system, number one. Number two is your execution system working without your leadership team? Well, yeah, that's a yes or no. And most leaders are sitting around the table going, no, I'm so deep into it. And that's okay. We recognize that. And even in the very high growth businesses like ours was, we were all in it. We were out of time. There's no more time. We were going to be, the biggest barrier to growing the company, as leaders normally are. And then the next thing is, do we have that 100% A player leadership team? Now, a lot of people go, oh, why do you use A player, all that thing? An A player is someone who actually wants to exceed the measures of success. That's an A player. So it sort of makes sense. Someone who doesn't want to be measured, that's fine. They're just probably, shouldn't be in that position. And this is the one that that most companies take some time to get right. It's one of the things we as coaches spend the most time on. For me, I did spend a lot of time on that in my first business, but by the time I got to ready to go, we had this fantastic leadership team who took us through the time, that growth time.
Yeah. I feel
That
like that's the
Yes,
fundamental, if you want to grow that.
fundamental,
There
because
are, yeah, there's so
it's
many barriers,
it's
but leadership.
Yeah, it's like, it's like there's not a team out there that goes to the Olympics that doesn't have their starting lineup dialed. There's
Yeah.
not. So why would you do that in business? So that's the next thing. It's just a reality. And when you're kicking off with a new leadership team and you're putting that out there, you're asking the question, right? It can be uncomfortable. But I don't want to waste time if someone's brought us in to help them grow a company, and the CEO and the leaders don't want to waste time either, right? So that's one. That's a do we have 100% A player leadership team? It's interesting when people answer that question, and then it's the next thing is understanding how cohesive is that leadership team. Because if you can have an A player team, but if they're not cohesive, meaning they don't have team trust, healthy team conflict, team commitment, team accountability, and committed to the team result, like not going to get there. All the teams going to the Olympics are
Yeah.
committed to those things, and the cohesiveness is usually the teams that win. It's very rare you see a team win at that level where the team is not cohesive. So I just want people to think about that. And then the last thing is asking the team, and we were doing the same thing. Do we have a clear and concise mapped strategy? And the answer to that, to me, always, that's why most teams start. They either have all those other things lined up, and they're desperate for that strategy, and they go, yeah, no, we don't have that. So they're on the edge of the foundation phase, right? That's the last thing they need to do. That is like, yeah, I'd love that's a coach in a candy shop for me, because I'm like, woo,
I can
right?
get them
I
out.
get to work. Yeah, let's go. We get to do the strategy and move to
Yeah.
momentum, because that's what's going to happen, right? And bring everybody along. But not that I don't like working on the other pieces, because those are the absolute, we have to dial those in so well. I had a client say to me the other day, like, our execution is working so well, the process, the system, they've forgotten about the system because it's just ingrained in what they do and who they are every day. And now now that that's going, they can focus in. The leaders know that's working. Inspect what you expect, right? You can do that through the software platform, right? You can see what's happening, and then you know what? They're so excited to focus on strategy,
Yeah.
right? As I am too. I'm
Yeah.
willing to put in the hard work with the team to get there. And I say hard work because, interviewing those 6 CEOs in the M game, nobody said it was easy.
Yeah.
Nobody said it's easy, but they said
I
it
love
was
it. Yeah.
easier. They said, they each said in the interviews, this is easier with the system than without it.
It's
It's
still
much
difficult. It's
harder
still hard.
without the system.
But
It's still
yeah.
because, and we all know why. There's people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that with the warmest, like, open arms. There's people involved, and we know when we work on a team, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your business team, whether it's your, some other, sport team you play on, there is work to be done, and it's not always easy, that work, to make sure the team stays tight and stays focused on where they want to go. Stay focused. See, there it is again. Stay
Stay
focused.
focused. So
Yeah.
that first year is really about clarity, focus, where we're going,
Yes.
and then getting the
Yes.
leadership, the execution, and the cash
Yeah.
system working.
Yeah.
Just for folks listening, I think leadership and execution is probably fairly straightforward, but getting that cash system going,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Well, a lot of people misunderstand the cash system, but it's the thing that really turned the dial in my first business, my second business, third business. I can go on in my clients' businesses.
Yeah.
The cash system is behavioral. And it starts, and that sounds weird because most people go, oh, the cash system. Oh, okay. Here you go, CFO, head of finance, controller, accountant. Yeah, can you get that going? That's not how the cash system works. The cash system, why it works, it's absolutely connected to the 3-HAG and the forecasted cash that you want in the bank the very first time that you got it out, right? You got it out. Then you bring it back, and and the other thing that it's connected to are the widgets, the non-financial things that flow through your organization. And it starts right there in the 2-day kickoff. It's identifying what are the key things that flow through your business, and can you forecast how many today? Most people can't go day, week, month, quarter right off the bat. Most people can go quarter, and then they usually divide by 3 months, and maybe 13 weeks we might divide again, right, in the beginning,
Yeah.
whatever those are. But you only usually divide by once, because that's usually wrong, right? But it's the willingness, again, it's behavioral. It's a willingness and desire to put, we put the line in the sand for the 3-hag. Now we're going to start out on the quarter going, how many of those things that need to flow through our business that drive our cash flow, but we just care about how many things that flow through our business. And Paradata, it was like the number of merchants is where we started. The number of businesses who are going to buy our payment service. That's where we started. We started forecasting. How many do we need? Because that was what we're going to make. We're going to profit per customer. That merchant was really important to us. We actually, as we got going, we broke it down per user. We got to that point as well. But we just started there. Like that, we said, in 3 years' time, we're going to have 30,000 merchants. Well, today, we have like 1,000. What is it going to be 13 weeks from now? Simple. It's simple, not a lot of metrics. We're just focused on that one. From there, when we're working this in the cash system, from there, that's a great start to the cash system. You don't need that dialed in the first quarter. There's so many other things going on, but the behavioral side of it is the willingness to forecast the key number. What you think the key number is for that day, it'll evolve over time with the team, and then keeping the score through the quarter. As you go one quarter, and then, we're going to do it the next quarter. Okay, good. You may or may not have what, I would call a budget, which is a license to spend. We're going to switch it into a forecast.
Yeah.
A forecast is a way to keep score. And so the cash system starts with widgets, not cash, which is pretty interesting. And those widgets we're going to get good at forecasting the ones that matter. When I work with a new company, I don't know what the score should be until I work with them and work through it. And we may go one quarter, think we got it. We go a second quarter. Yep. This is the thing that is, flows through our company, that puts money in the bank. And then we will actually from there take the budget, or if they have a forecast, and we're going to build a model. We'll take their P&L model. They normally already have one. And we're just going to add in the widget assumptions month over month for the next 12 months. We're just going for 12 months. And the interesting thing is, I'm going to ask the client, how much cash do we need to have in the bank at the end of every month? Nobody does that. I don't know why. Humanly, we actually, like, a lot of people do it for their own personal finances. They're looking at, lots of people don't. But if we can forecast cash first and how much we want in the bank, and then work our way back up the P&L, profit and loss statement, to the widgets, and go, we can deliver 10 of those, and then we work our way back down and we go, oh, well, that doesn't line up with the forecasted cash. Well, we should go back up and make some different decisions. Maybe we need 20 of them. Oh, that's a bit better. Yeah. Or maybe there's something in between. But the cash system is probably one of the most misunderstood systems in metronomics, because everybody looks to the finance team. And I feel for the finance team. The finance team loves the cash system when we get it going, because it puts the onus on all the leaders, all the other leaders that own the key widgets in the key function flow map, which is the key to how to make money in your business. There's like a whole leadership team that owns the interdependencies of those widgets, and it removes the finance team from having to forecast wild ass guesses.
Well,
and they're so tired of owning it. It's awful. So this is a way to easily work a team into it. And I just want to say, it usually takes me 2 to 4 quarters, right, to get the first forecasted month over month, right, cash balance in the operating bank account done. It just, we have to work our way humanly up to it. People don't want to do this.
So
But
don't
once
feel
they
despondent after
do,
the first quarter or second quarter. This is a
yeah,
process.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the funny thing of it. When I went and coached my first client, I actually forgot how long it took us to get this 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 P&L with this cash flow forecast at the bottom working. And so I went into my first client, I kicked them off, and I said, yeah, so I'll see you at the next quarterly, 90 days. And, I had my CEO calls in between, and I was like, have the 36-month forecast ready to go, right? Like that is just ridiculous because I didn't peel it back in my own head to what we did in our business. And I looked back, like I went back. I'm crazy about keeping notes and journals and all that stuff. So I went back and looked at,
Wow.
oh, okay. Took us four
That's out of
quarters,
it. Yeah.
and we were making it up, but the thing that I learned, of course, it's the human behavior behind forecasting the widget and then keeping score. And we want to go from quarterly to monthly to weekly to daily. I'm trying to push as hard as I can to get that score, the right thing we're measuring, forecasting and measuring, and then get it, through the organization. Because when we have an organization of A players, they're all attracted to the score, and it repels, your B who can't be an A and your C player.
Yeah.
They don't want to score.
So
They
the
don't want to.
cash system speaks to the biggest problem most businesses have. And you said it
Uh-huh.
earlier. We had a huge amount of cash from the investment, but we weren't generating the cash that we needed
Right.
to be generating.
No.
And
No.
that's what this
They
system's all about. From those widgets to the money in the bank, how do
yeah.
we generate the cash in this business as the
Yeah,
leadership
yeah.
team?
I mean, that's the thing that unlocked it all, really,
Yeah.
because we had raised like like so we were so young as a business. We had raised over 30 million US, right? Like that. And we so we had lots of money, right? So that wasn't a problem, but actually figuring out how to make money.
That's what the
And
system
that is the
is.
goal. Like
That's
my second business, we didn't invest any money. We didn't take on any investors. It was like we are customer funding this. And again, it was a SaaS business. Anyone listening knows if you're in a SaaS business, it's really hard to customer fund a SaaS business. We're adamant that our business model must fund the business, right? And so, we use your typical, pay up front 1 year, 2 years, 3 years in advance. A young company has a hard time doing that, but we hit the core need of our customer in that. That's why they were willing to do that, right? We positioned ourselves against that core need, and they were pretty desperate for what we had.
so. I know I just kind of be respectful of time, but you talked about metronomics earlier in terms of all of the frameworks that come in and connect into the system. It was one of the things that really attracted me to metronomics as a coach. And what I'm curious about right now is who's influencing you right now? Who are you thinking about at the moment in terms of new stuff that's coming in?
Well, I continue to read at an incredible pace. And I think, all we, as coaches, we all do. We're reading with all our clients, and then we're reading to continue to drive forward, right? And to look at those pieces. I think the biggest influence right now for myself and for Metronomics is really thinking about unlocking. And so I've been looking at business models. Pricing. I've been looking at positioning. I've been looking heavily at strategy, not because I love strategy, but I know that continues to be like one of the big things. Once a team unlocks the cash system, the execution system, they get the right people in place. I've seen it. And they get that cohesiveness. It's like they are driving around the block and they're like, woo, stop sign, hit the blinker, woo, turn, yes, and they're doing so great. But they don't know where they're going. And so just looking at that, I love strategy, but it's really, I think of all the businesses running out there, a great execution system. There's lots of them. They've grown nicely. Like, holy cow, the stories I hear are amazing. But to get them to think about strategy earlier in the process, that's why that mapped piece, when you kick off with Metronomics, starts on day one, because strategic clarity and confidence is the thing. And so we have to have the right people. So people's still on my mind, but you know what? That's a thing I see solved all the time. The other piece is taking that team and ensuring that they are experts in the market they want to play in, so they can make great, better, faster decisions in the direction they want to go. So still looking at, like, and funny thing is, Jean, I like, look out there for, I just read a strategy book. Oh, The Crux, right? I just read The Crux. I read it because I was looking for more, and someone had said, look, there's some really good, thoughtful questions at the end of this, which I agree, but there wasn't there wasn't, like, the repeatability of our strategy system is key. And I was just looking for more, and like, I'm always looking for more to get the team excited about being experts in the market, unlock that barrier, right? And making sure they can see where they're going. I mean, that's what we're there for, right?
Yeah.
To like go, look, to ensure that the team we have, that they see who they can be in the future, right? It's that mindset. The other person that, I can say has influenced my thinking, and I know your thinking and others greatly, and it gets back to thinking about growth. And growth comes back to ourselves individually, and the focus we have on growth is Ben Hardy, right?
Yes.
I love Ben's work. I've been a huge fan of Ben's work for years. Ben coming to our Tip Top conference in Whistler this year was like just game changing for so many CEOs, so many leaders, so many coaches who are in the room, to help people get a handle on how to reframe where they're going and what
Yeah.
is possible. It
And to
would,
raise
like,
that floor, like, just,
yeah, raise the floor, frame it. And we know that's why the three hag is so critical to anyone, is that there's only a few, when you reframe your three hag to where you want to go, right? There's, we've got the right size. There's only a few decisions to make. It's actually easier,
yeah,
right? And
it
with
makes
the
it easier.
system, yeah, like lots of people draw a line in the sand. I see lots of people like do a three hag and go, oh, great, I'm going to go there. But they don't put the system in place behind it. It's the system that will set you free. The system sets you free. And the reframing just gets your mind and your team's mind around it so everybody can see it. That's what the three hag's there for. Everyone goes, oh, we're going there. Awesome. Okay, we got to make some decisions on how to get there. Let's make them together, right? And then we map it out. That's why the swim lanes are so powerful, because there's only a few decisions to make in those swim lanes.
Yeah, Ben's stuff has been really powerful, and I feel the more that you kind of use it, work with clients with it, the more sense it makes, and
Yeah.
the easier it becomes. I think if we raise the bar a bit and we get very clear on where we're going, and we just say no to everything else, it just starts to make
Yes.
this journey
And I
so much.
think that's really key. I've said it's about focus, it's about focus, it's about focus. It's about focus about where you want to end up, because that's how
Yeah.
you're going to make the decisions, right? That's how you and your team will agree on the decisions you're going to make.
Fantastic, Shannon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Where's the best place for people to get a hold of you? Like, if they want to get in
Uh,
touch?
LinkedIn for
LinkedIn.
sure.
Yeah,
LinkedIn,
connecting.
you can find me on LinkedIn. I love that. Please connect. Metronomics.com, our website, tons of tools for CEOs and leaders and for coaches as well.
And we'll
I
put it all in
love
there.
connecting with people, love hearing the stories. Yep, go for it.
Thank you so very much. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Great. I could talk to you all day.
I know I've got the same feeling.